Welcome to the Final Fantasy XV Weapon Guide, a series showcasing each weapon class's repertoire of attacks and highlighting their strengths and weaknesses. Today, we'll be talking about shields. I've done my best to find everything I could, but if I'm missing something, please mention it in a comment and I'll add it in the description, an annotation, or in a follow-up video. I'm doing my best to avoid as many spoilers as possible, so most footage will be from the early game or training room. Shields are extremely defensive and simple weapons that have a whole host of drawbacks with only a few redeeming features. They're slow, have low damage output, horrendous tracking on attacks, often don't knock down with attacks that should, and are incapable of link strikes or air stepping. On the other hand, they can nullify damage while costing less MP to defend with in a regular phase and have a few useful techniques. Shields are very situational and are best kept equipped for when the defensive capabilities are needed, then swapped off of once you're able to resume the offensive. If you insist on using shields as an offensive tool, then you'll want to keep your enemies at bay using the several knockdown attacks at your disposal to open the enemy up. Otherwise, you may find getting consistent damage to be troublesome. Most of the shield moveset is unimpressive, but many of the attacks have niche use cases that make them at least a little bit interesting. Finisher knocks down enemies and inflicts break, which is great on its own, but is also the strongest attack the shield class is capable of. Use it wisely and liberally to knock down your opponent and make them vulnerable so that you can actually deal damage. Just be aware of the incredible delay needed between the initial attack string and the button press that triggers the finisher. Delayed guard counter is an attack exclusive to shields that boasts incredible range. There's almost nothing that can escape this attack unless the enemy uses a lot of lateral movement, since the attack has very poor target tracking. Warp Opener similarly has poor tracking, often causing you to sail right past your target, but lets you close the gap quickly while simultaneously dealing damage. It hits multiple times and isn't as committed as a move as other Warp Openers because it isn't actually a warp, so there's less risk of a counterattack. That said, you can't actually block anything as Noctis charges in, so don't expect to be Captain America. Away attack is perhaps the only attack in the shield's repertoire that is actually really useful, even if it does require specific circumstance to make full use of. When thrown, the shield hits everything in its path for a very long distance and has a generous area of effect, so much so that it can hit the same enemy twice if they're large enough. Because it knocks enemies down, causing them to be vulnerable, setting up enemies in a tight group in order to bowl them over is a viable strategy. The only issue with it is that once the enemies are knocked over, shields aren't particularly useful in capitalizing damage-wise. Blocking is obviously what the shield does best, but it does have a few noteworthy intricacies. Firstly, it blocks light projectiles such as gunfire for free and completely. Blocking other attacks costs a paltry 3 MP, similarly negating damage, and deflects weaker attacks, which opens up the attacker to retaliation, preferably with a proper weapon. Thank you for watching this edition of the Final Fantasy XV Weapon Guide. I hope you gained some valuable insight that will help you survive your journey in Eos, and I hope to see you next time, where we'll learn a whole lot more.